Actually, we are live a week later, and I'm super excited to have him. He's an actor extraordinaire, he's a writer, he's a performer, as well as a playwright, director as well, all the way from South Africa, and he's joining us on our live. So for today, I'm really excited, and I want you to engage with us. First and foremost, it is such an honor to be having the fellow actor on my Instagram live for today, live with Adriano, hashtag all the way. So if you are an actor, aspiring actor, if you want to just simply step into the thespian field, this is definitely one for you to just take away. Now, I'm joined on our live today by Sello Maake kaNcube. I'm really excited about this because we will be chatting to him about his life, his career that stems across 4 decades, and it's inspiring, it's also motivating. So please do share with him and maybe just ask questions that you feel you perhaps have. So I want to quickly try and get hold of Sello and make sure that we get to go live. So one for you, yeah. So just waiting for Sello. Also, to many, he's known as Archie Moroka. Hey! So please do ask any questions that you might have as an actor. I know during the course of the week, I also asked a few questions to those that really want to just step into the acting sphere. Maybe if you do have a question for him, please do not hesitate to also ask your question. So we're going to quickly try and get hold of Sello. Yeah, it's interesting because earlier this week I was saying Sello, and everybody's like, no, it's not Sello. We just know him as Archie Moroka. So why really, and I'm so proud to have Archie on is he was one of the first black men that I had an opportunity to watch on TV, and being portrayed in such a dignified manner as we all know him as Archie Moroka. So let's just quickly see where Sello is, and then we get to go live with him. Okay. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to ask. And yeah, let me just increase this technicalities, but also this is what I love about the time that we're in. The pandemic has also made sure that we get to interact and also just really share our views and our points and emancipate ourselves. So let's just see if we can quickly get hold of Sello. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And congratulations. Happy anniversary. It's your anniversary today. Thank you so much for that. It really means a lot. Sending you so much love as well. This is always so. So I got my tea out just in case Sello has tea, because I know there's a character he plays with tea. So I was so nervous the entire afternoon, right? That I just couldn't I just couldn't fathom the fact that I'm going live with Sello, and so I decided I'm gonna get a stony because it helps for the the butterflies that we feel inside. So let me just see if we can quickly get a hold of him. Okay. Thank you for the love, guys. I appreciate the love. It's all about the love. Okay. The love is so much. I appreciate it, guys. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. I did. I did. Okay. Pearl of you. Go live with Pearl. Okay. Let's see. Come on, technology. Come on. Okay. There we go.
Hi. How are you? How are
Well,
you?
thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Mr. Sello Maake kaNcube, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Well, thank you. The box on top of your head, that's not going to fall on your head, right?
Nah, it's not going to.
Okay. Then I just need to make sure we don't want to be seeing anything happen, during the live.
Hey, and things happen on
Finally.
virtual, don't they?
Yeah.
Things
How are
happen
you?
on virtual, don't they?
Yeah, in virtual things happen just as the screen now. So I think we need to just tilt the screen a little bit to the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I don't know which one. I've got two gadgets that have been turned on. Righto.
There we go. There we go. There we, we're almost there. We're almost there. Just tilt it
Yeah.
a
Hey,
little bit more.
technology, man.
Kunjani.
Hey, man. I'm all right. I'm good, man. Keep going. How are you guys out there? Uganda in Namibia.
In Namibia gaan dit baie goed. Ons
Nee,
geniet dit.
goed,
Dis amper
man.
so we
Yeah, no,
really enjoy.
I've got very fond memories of Namibia, if I may say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got very fond memories. And I mean, I came there. I think it was 1986.
Wow.
And yes, and we performed. I mean, it was still Southwest Africa then, and we
Yeah.
performed at the what you call it, um, Academy University.
Yeah. The
Yes, yeah,
University of
we performed.
Namibia.
Yeah, University of Namibia. I mean, I think then it was called Academy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I was doing a play called Was Albert.
Oh wow.
Yes, and I also came again and I visited when it was now Namibia, and I visited the National Theatre,
Right.
and had a workshop with the actors in Namibia.
Yeah, and that
Hmm.
was just the time before I was aspiring to be an actor because just like myself, like yourself, at the age of 15, 16, I would always watch plays and see plays and really be intrigued by it, but not really have formal
Okay,
education around plays. Uh, so I want to. It's all about you now, Sello. Take us back
okay.
to you being 15 years old, and here you are really as an actor aspiring to be someone on stage and behind the screen.
Man, what can I say? I mean, 15, you still kind of like, all starry-eyed and, just as, wanting to be something. You don't know yet what you're going to turn out to be.
Right.
And what happened was I saw a play for the first time in 1975, and it was a play by Gibson Kente called How Long.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
after seeing that play, I never, stopped mimicking what I saw in the play. And I had a cousin who, I mean, was 3 years older than me then. And him and his friends, I mean, they would always hang around at the backyard room. I mean,
Yeah.
the backyard room that is connected to the garage. We used to call it the boys' room, and it was
Okay.
his room. And his friends will always gather there. And they were involved in an amateur play that time. And when
Yeah.
they are meeting, when they were meeting and, just having their sort of adult teenage talk, because I was still 15, I would come
Right.
in there and just say, hey, do you remember when Africa did this? Do you remember when
Yeah.
so-and-so did this? And one of
Yeah.
them said, this boy, shows a bit of talent. Why don't
Yeah.
we involve him in our play? And what they did was they started writing me into the play. There was no part for me, but they started writing
Wow.
me into the play. Said, okay, you'll enter here, and you'll be the lead sister, the lead brother, because the lead was a lady. And I
Yeah.
would actually just come in there, and they will always, and that's how it started. And I started to be on stage basically in 1976
Mhm.
January. I still remember at a hall in Naledi around Soweto.
Wow.
Hmm. So, I mean, as they say, I think, and then in 1981, then that's when I had my professional debut with Gibson Kent as well. You know, the man who sparked the desire to be an actor in me was a man who was to give me my professional debut.
Right. And rightfully so to say, you know, I've seen a lot of your interviews and I've seen a lot of your productions. Would you say that acting is in your DNA? Is it something where you feel you've chosen a role or a role has chosen you?
You know, I think my approach to acting, and especially now, I think after you know, after a long time, you know, there was a time when, you know, it was a matter of getting a job, and that's what mattered. You know, you never thought too much about, you know, what you are asking. I think it's only now in time that, you know, like you sort of like say, well, I think I would like to play this role, or I would like to play this other role. But before then, it was all about getting a job and doing your best. And I guess that's where my head was at.
And maybe so, just post-independence, especially in South Africa, because we gained our independence, you know, prior to South Africa. What was that like? You know, here you are, you're telling your parents, this is what I want to do. I want to venture into arts. I want to be a performer. I want to be on stage. What was that response like? You know, especially our black people, because they're like, a job is a real job where you get, and you know, get to do an 8 to 5. This acting business is not an, you know, 8 to 5.
I show you that is you know, gosh, I feel, pardon me. No, I remember, I think that my first really first I think this happened when I was doing my standard 9, and Gibson had come to perform, because I grew up in Atteridgeville also, and he came to perform in Atteridgeville. And I remember after the performance, the very first performance, because there were 2 shows, and after the very first performance, there was an announcement made that those who are interested in acting, Bragib is looking for actors. And I remember going home after show saying, hey man, Bragib is looking for actors and all that. And my stepfather said, no ways, you finish your matric first and then you can do whatever you want. Yeah. I think between 85 and 86, you know, finding acting jobs was a little problematic, you know, and I then went and worked as a clerk. But much later, I think late 85, I heard that there were auditions at the Market Theatre, and I went there to audition. And by that time, I was living with my biological father. And when I told him that I wanted to go back into acting, he wasn't very approving of it. Because I had an uncle who was an actor, and who basically, you know, turned out to be a drunk. And my father said to me, oh, now you want to be a drunk just like your uncle, you know. But I just said to him, that is not what I want. I just want to be an actor. But when I told my stepfather, his acceptance was very interesting, because he just said to me, you made a wise decision. And I didn't ask why then, you know. It was only, I think, in 1988 when I was doing a movie called A Dry White Season. It was an adaptation of the novel written by Andre Brink. And I had the opportunity of having one of my scenes reshot in London. And when I was in London, I met with one of the greatest actors in the world, Marlon Brando. You know, and you know, when I came back from London, I mean, I was all happy, and you know, having met Marlon Brando. And as I was having a conversation with him, I mean, I told him about all the good news. And then, you know, the question arose in my head, and I asked him, I said, hey man, Baba, just tell me, why did you say that I've made a wise decision when I said I'm going back into acting? And his reply was that because I knew you wouldn't disappoint yourself. And then he started telling me how when I was growing up, he tried me in all kinds of things. You know, he said, I took you to ballroom dancing, you dropped out. I took you for karate, you dropped out. And, you know, and he mentioned the whole series of things that he tried, he wanted me to try. But, and he said, it was only when you started doing this acting of yours that I saw where your heart is. Because sometimes you're rehearsing in the garage, you know, because that's what I used to do. And then I will, you know, after finishing my chores. And then he said, and then while you're rehearsing, I will interrupt you and say, go cut the lawn. And you go cut the lawn so fast so that you should go back and rehearse. And I think it was from then that I knew what is it that is in your heart and that you desire to do. You know, and I guess for me, you know, this is what I would say to a lot of people. I mean, if you've got that something that, you know, nothing stops you from wanting to do it, you will do it at all. You know, that is where your heart is. It's what you will do in order to make yourself happy. And I think what matters is what makes you happy, not what makes other people happy. And once you do something that you love and that you enjoy, you know, you don't worry about a lot of things, you know. That's the, you know, like story just around the, you know, my father and my stepfather.
And obviously you I don't want to say you probably made the choice and decision in terms of who's the favorite, but certainly life lessons come from that. And I hope that one can actually get to read about this in your biography that's to come very soon. And maybe just to you know, to navigate, you know, you've done theater and film. In Namibia, for many, you are known as Archie Moroka. This man that, for me personally, you know, has motivated me to really want to venture from theater into film, because for the first time I got to see a black man being portrayed in a dignified manner, a man that that you know, that is a businessman, a man that is black but is sort of resembling not the white man but success, because many a times the black man is always, like you said, the one mowing the lawn, or the cleaner, or, you know, the one that's always just doing the domestic work. Here, Archie Moroka, played by Sello Maake kaNcube, is being portrayed in a dignified manner. What did this role mean to you as not just Archie, but as Sello, and making a difference in creating this successful man on black TV?
No, and thank you for that question. You know, I mean, doing that role, I mean, when I got the part, and incidentally, I wasn't actually, I didn't audition for it. I auditioned actually for the brother of Archie Moroka, who was Busang at that time. That was the role that I auditioned for.
The creative actor. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was a decision that was taken by the producers, you know, after my auditioning, that they said, no, I think he would be perfect for this other role instead of this one. And I think after, you know, I had auditioned, I later learned that I was given Archie Moroka, you know, and I didn't know that it was going to be such a big role, you know, and it was only, I think, as the series, you know, started showing and you seeing people's reaction, that I realized that, wow, you know, this is, you know, something big. Like I said even earlier on, that at that time, all I needed was a job in order to be able to feed my children. You know. In fact, I remember, I mean, I had a friend, you know, talking about the whole issue of the parents' reactions to, you know, to acting. You know, I remember I had a friend, and his father asked him, I said, hey man, Bongani, just tell me, actually, where does Sello work? You know, and my friend said, no, an actor. I said, yeah, I see, but what does he work? Where does he work? Because according to black parents, you know, somebody just had to have a conventional job, you know, not to be, because things like acting, being a musician was actually things that you do as a hobby, not as a profession.
Yeah, it wasn't a job.
No, not at all. You know, so yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, it was just, you know, getting a job, nothing else.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And now your characters have metamorphosized. You know, I'm a little bit jealous because you've played Mufasa, who I've always said, should a production come now, you know, I would love to be on a tour with Lion King. And here you are playing the Lion King, and you're in the UK. Give us a little line of your favorite line from, you know, the book of the Lion King.
Oh, hot. You're putting me in a difficult situation. What was it? What was that like? You know what is weird? You know, I think, you know, like, especially, as I think in fact, let me talk about the scene, more, you know, more than the line, but the scene where Mufasa takes Simba on Pride Rock and then shows him the world and says, you see all that is your kingdom. You know, that scene was, I think, the most endearing moment for me, you know, in the scene. And also, again, I mean, I think the other one was after he had basically, when Simba had actually wandered off into the, what you call it, into the graveyard,
into the elephant,
and he was almost mauled by the hyenas. And then he came, and then, you know, Mufasa came and rescued him from that. And then, and then after that, and then there comes the song, They Live in You. You know, I think also that was a very prized moment for me, because that was a moment when I sang a solo, you know.
Oh, and, wow.
Yeah, you know, and even though it was a moment that I used to dread, because I you know, even though when I started as an actor, you know, my professional debut was a musical play, you know, but after 98, after that, I never did any musicals. I basically just played, like, just acted, you know. And when I got the role of Mufasa, oh man, you know, that angel, I was just happy to get out of the country, because I was just feeling clogged up in one way. So going to perform in London was to go and have some fresh air, you know. And I mean, and I did that for like 2 years, and that was, I think, the most memorable 2 years of my life, you know, playing Mufasa.
And what, rightfully so, you know, it's such a beautiful play. And I think nowadays, when I'm not a father yet, and I can just comprehend what it's like as a parent to you know, to teach your children the basic principles of the Lion King, because there's so much one takes from it. I, as an actor, take so much from it. And like you said, the lessons you teach your children, because we're teaching our children that one day we might not be here, and you know, to prepare them for different. What did that mean to you personally? Because a lot of people looked at, you know, Sello as Mufasa.
Yeah. You know, that I think, you know, I mean, the Lion King, I think it's a piece of work that is going to live, if not for centuries, I mean, for decades, but for centuries. I mean, already, I think it has already passed the mark of maybe 25 years, you know, and I can assure you, you know, your children are going to see it. And I think even, I mean, my children saw it. And I'm definitely sure that even my grandchildren now, they are going to have to see it, and they will take their children to go and see it. That is just one play that is going to live forever. And I think it is so in tune with what life is. And it's all about, even again, I think the baton, you know, to your young ones, you know, and it actually teaches, I think, even parents to be able to discuss difficult things, you know, with their children.
And the basis of how to discuss difficult issues, you know, and maybe sensitizing it. And this brings me back to a role where you were really criticized. And I'm going to bring this cup in now because I'm going to try and pretend.
Which one is that?
The pink.
It wasn't criticized.
I'm going to try and hold the cup just like you did. Okay, okay, I'm also holding my elbow down there.
Okay. No, actually wasn't criticized, but I think a lot of people were shocked more than, you know, that more than they, I think, criticized me. Maybe because I'm not a social media person, maybe they were criticizing me on social media. But Black Twitter, you know, apparently is Black Twitter, you know. But in fact, if there is a role that, you know, that's one of the roles that basically stands out for me. It is the role of coursing the queen. Yeah. Because first and foremost, it took me out of my comfort zone. You know, because all the time people have always viewed me as the, you know, the alpha male, you know. And people saw me, you know, playing gay, you know. I mean, others were like, what? and I think I put them on a whole string. I mean, I think people started getting convinced maybe after the 5th or 10th episode when they like said, wow, and he's doing it. He's playing this. But one of the things that playing that role has actually did, I mean, I have heard young gay boys come to me and thanking me to say, you know what? After my parents saw you play the role, they began to accept me. You know, and I think for me, it served what I always personally believe in, which is, you know, an actor is an instrument for mind liberation. You know, people, I mean, think that this is my quote, but it was actually said by one actor who's passed on, and may his soul rest in peace, John Ledwaba. Because I remember as a young aspiring actor reading in the newspaper his interview, and he said that, you know, and for me, yes, I mean, being an actor, you really are truly a mind liberator, because you actually have to venture into the human condition in such a way that you reflect it, so that people can begin to see themselves and see and understand the life around them.
Right.
Yeah, and it is for me, it is one of the roles that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, and it's so profound, because as much as what we're going through as a society now, recently you also starred in the award-winning Blood and Water that featured on Netflix, and you play this dominant lawyer. We're waiting for season 2 to see actually what happens in it, and you know, the character you portray is different from any of the other roles you've played, but it comes through as dominant again, and that speaks so much of yourself as a versatile actor. So just on that, what do you feel you have allowed society to have a mind switch in terms of what you've portrayed as a character? So every time you're in front of the screen, is there a motive to say, you know what, this is what's happening in South Africa, this is what's happening in the world, and this role will create conversation around this?
You know, you're asking amazing questions, but you know, unfortunately, one doesn't think that deep. You know what I mean? But I guess it also just depends on how one portrays the role, and if the role basically, you know, you know, strums the right strings in people's hearts, you know, and people react to, I think, what they see as believable, you know, and I think that is one thing that I have always strived to do, that when I perform, you know, I should be very truthful. You know, there's an American actor, Hollywood actor, you know, in the 40s. His name is James Cagney, and he's quoted as saying that what an actor has got to do is find his mark, look the other actor in the eye, and tell the truth. You know, and you know, for me, that is the most important thing that as an actor one should do. And my first acting lesson was actually from my uncle that I was telling you about earlier on, who I told you that my father said, you know, I want to become a drunkard just like him. He was a very flamboyant, very, very flamboyant. And the very first acting lesson that he gave me was, he broke down the word actor to me. And he said, A stands for action, C stands for creativity, T stands for technique, O stands for observation, R stands for reaction. All these things you use as an actor, you know. And as I mature as an actor, and you know, finding my own vocabulary on how to articulate these things, I then, you know, realized that, you know, and wanted to see, but how does these things work? Creativity, technique, you know, and observation, you know, because those are things that are standing there in the word actor. And I realized that the most important is O, which is observation. And this observation is the observation that you do, observing life around you, and then observing yourself. You know, how you know, how you you know, when you experience emotion, you know, what is the sensation that you know, and begin to, you know, like if you are angry, so, oh, so when I'm angry, I'm like this. Oh, when I'm in doubt, I'm like this. You have to work with that kind of awareness. So observation is very, very critical. And out of observation, then creativity comes into place. Because now what you observe around you, you know, when, like for instance, if ever you're supposed to play a part of a pastor, you know, if you've observed pastors, what you're going to do, you know, you're going to say, you know, I like what Pastor Miles Monroe does when he does it. I like what Pastor T.D. Jakes does when he does this. And then you create a composite, you know, a combination of all those characteristics. And that's how your creativity comes into place, you know. And then technique, also out of observing yourself, you know, for instance, you know, one of the things that I believe is that, you know, every emotion has got its rhythm of breath. You know, if you are going to cry, your breath changes, you know. And one thing is that once you know how to manipulate your breath, and your breath will change how your body feels, because the body itself has got an innate and inbuilt sense of truth. You know, I don't know.
Do you want to give us an example of that?
I'll give you an example. You know, I don't know if ever you've had maybe an acrimonious conflict, either with your lover or with a very close friend, and it was such a you know, like an acrimonious fight, and you don't see that person for like maybe a year or two or even more, but the day you see them, that whole experience you had last with them, that, you know, comes back into your body to the extent that you will even feel almost like your heart is beating in your throat, because your body relives that experience. Now, as an actor, it is something that you've got to be aware of all the time. You know, you've got to be aware of how you're feeling, you know, and that way, you know how to tap into your own truth. Because now you develop a technique. I mean, sometimes I always hear, like, you know, younger actors, you know, talking about, you know, when I get into the role, you know, when I get into the character, You know, I think it's the biggest, BS ever. It is when an actor
Yeah,
wants to say, look at how hard I'm working, because
yeah.
character is defined by actions.
Mm.
And it is by doing the
And
actions
it cannot perhaps.
that the writer has written that you are going to,
Yeah,
I mean, I think what I want to say is they are focusing on the actions that they are going to do, but
yeah.
character is
That's what I
defined
wanted to
by,
say.
yes,
Yeah.
saying,
No, no, that's what I wanted to say, because at the end of the day, as much as you can engage with, this certain emotion, that
yes,
action that has been written by the script writer needs to depict from somewhere. As an actor, you need to find that emotion to exert it as your character. That emotion needs to come from somewhere. And I totally understand what you say with that.
and also, I mean, it goes hand in hand with the fact that, I mean, people always like, when they look at the script and they look at the lines, those lines, in actual fact,
Yeah.
they are the thoughts of the
Mhm.
characters. They are not just lines. So as an
Yeah.
actor, your duty is to learn those lines in such a way that they become your thought rather than
Mm.
lines. I mean,
Right.
take for instance, somebody does a transcript of this interview.
Right.
You know, uh, what is going to happen is that for a person who's going to read the transcript, they are going to have to look at what is being said, and they don't have to get into the character. They've got to make
Mm.
the as if their thoughts that I am expressing
Right.
and the thoughts and the questions that you're asking are
Mm.
their own rather than the lines that have been written. And by
Absolutely.
following those actions, I mean, for instance, even I mean, with you, at the moment you are an interviewer, I am an interviewee. You didn't
Yeah.
have to get into character to be the interviewer. All you're just doing is
Absolutely.
performing actions as they come. I see your
Hail
point.
down. Yeah, no, we were buffering there for a minute. Now, I was just saying, I hail
Mm,
down. Just that analogy, it speaks so much. It speaks of your reputable work and the work that you've plowed in, for the past 4 decades. And I
yeah.
want to move on to here you are, you're playing in Blood and Water. I want you to really maybe just touch on the character you play in Blood and Water, because it's a character that I hate. You're playing this lawyer that has one son, he's a billionaire, there's children being abducted, there's this child that's being looked for, and it's such a young role, and it's a film and it's a series that is for the teenagers.
Yes.
New media is also being used a lot in it. How would you say the industry has changed in terms of representation? Because now, having grown up post-apartheid, it was hard for you to find a
Yeah.
job. But now, the representation has changed. Is it on the right path for Africans?
I think it is. I think it is. But somewhere, somehow, we've got to get to a point where we actually choose the stories that we want to tell. And I think the
Yeah.
world is opening up. I mean, the world is truly becoming a global village. And
Mm.
but we have got to make sure that we maintain our authenticity. And make sure that we begin to tell stories that now reflects our own humanity, our own
Mm.
human condition. I mean, one
Mm.
of the things that I personally decry is the fact that we end up, just telling stories that are just about crime and all that. I mean, you were
Mm.
saying earlier on that when you looked at Generation, there you saw a black man, portrayed with dignity,
Yeah.
and showing success. And we've got amazing stories that
Mm.
basically has reflect our the landscape of our human condition at the present moment.
Right.
But the world is opening up, and I think the coming in of Netflix and Showmax. I mean, there's a one series that I've just finished shooting. That was for Showmax. It's
Right.
called Blood Psalms. I think it hasn't been flighted yet. I mean, that's series. I tell you, it is going to blow the minds of many Africans.
Wow.
Because the way that story has been crafted, it is almost crafted, like, it's like playing the Egyptian time, a period, but represented by black people, unlike the Ten Commandments, where Moses is white and Ramses is white, the Pharaoh is white, and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, things are really, we are getting back to owning up the narrative that Africa should have.
Exactly. And I think moreover so, because of that representation and telling our own stories, we have now taken control of telling our own stories. That's why even with the SAFTAs being celebrated last night, you could really see that black writers and black thespians are coming to play. And I'm so proud of you to say that. I want to get back into, because our time is quite limited, the role you play as a father. But most importantly, you reference your stepfather a lot. In Namibia, as much as in South Africa, gender-based violence is one of the scourges that we experience. What role and lessons can we as men, because I know you play such a pivotal role in fighting gender-based violence as an actor, as an activist, what role can we as men play to change this narrative that, toxic masculinity, toxic patriarchy, what role can we play?
I mean, and to say this, as part of, well, I founded my foundation, I think in 2010, but it only started really being active, I think, around about 2012. And my foundation is very, it is where I'm almost, taking my energies to, because through it, I aim at promoting the performing arts, and use the performing arts as a medium for social advocacy. But prior to that, in 1998, I worked with a group in Alexander, which was affiliated to ADAPT, which was an NGO that dealt with domestic violence. And they were pioneers in having men as partners as far back as 1998. And they had a men's program. And in that program, there were 4 young men who wanted to do a play. And because it's a subject that I have always wanted to interrogate, when I heard of that, I immediately jumped and said, yeah, I would want to work with those guys. And basically, we ended up with a piece called Komeng. And Komeng is a Sotho word that means, going to the mountains for initiation. But we use that as a metaphor for psychological initiation. When the play ends, it speaks about one of the characters says, today we have realized, today we have removed the foreskin of the mind. Today we have realized that we are human beings first and then man after. And that is a very important lesson that I think as men we can begin to teach ourselves, because most of the time we always project our manhood before our humaneness, and I think the sooner we realize that we are human beings, and first, and then gender comes after. One thing about, humanity or humaneness, Ubuntu, Ubuntu has got no gender. When you are, conceived as a baby, people are more concerned about you being issued into life. What your gender is, it's only now, because of science, that people are concerned what gender of the child is. But before everything else, you are first a human being. It is a human being that is being formed in the womb, you know, and in that, if we can recognize that, men, you know, that we are human beings. And what is important is that women themselves are human beings. And we've got to start trying, or basically teaching ourselves to appreciate them as other human beings. But most important, you know, men, we like to project ourselves as the heads of our households, isn't it? But here's a very interesting anecdote, you know, that I like telling. And it's an anecdote of a carpenter working in his workshop, you know, and he's got this 7-year-old, or the 7-year-old walks in, and then from there the 7-year-old start asking questions. Papa, what is this? Papa, what is this? Papa, and he's distracting the old man, you know, from his work. In order to distract this boy, inside the workshop there was a map of the world. So the old man takes off that map of the world, tears it into pieces, throws it on the floor, gets sellotape, and, you know, gives the boy a task, and that, you know, distract the boy for a while, and the old man continues to do his work. After a while, the boy comes back, say, Papa, look, I have, you know, put it together. And now behind the map of the world, there is a drawing of a man's head. And the moral of the story is, man can get his head together, the world would be a better place to be. You see? Oh, wow. And now let's take, so now let's take analogy and take it a little further, you know, and look at this, what the head, the duty, or what the head serves on, you know, on physiological makeup. You know, on the head, what you find eyes, in order to have vision, see danger, you know, and basically just have vision. On the head, you have ears to hear danger, hear beautiful music, you know, and for alertness. On the head again, you've got the mouth, you know, which feeds the body, and also is there for communication, you know. On the head again, you find the nose, which gives oxygen to the body. And then inside the skull of the head, there's this gray matter which doesn't weigh more than a kilogram. I think apparently it weighs just about 6 grams. And that you know, that gray matter actually controls all the functions of the body. You know, the heartbeat is controlled, your breathing is controlled, everything. You know, when you see danger, you know, it tells the body what to do and what not to do. Now, if you say head of your household, and then look at what the head does on the body, you realize you've got a big responsibility. And the head never heats up. It is always maintaining the balance of the regulation of the whole body. So if you are saying you are the head of the household, which means you are going to regulate everything with precision and you know, deftness that is unmatchable. So if men are going to continue to say they are the heads of the household, it is not about control, it is about regulation, and regulating and making sure that everything goes well. And you know, I always, even when I tell this, you know, talk to people about this, that you know, for instance, when people are drinking and you know, and basically they pass out, you know what makes them to pass out? Because when you're drinking, you know, the kidneys are busy trying to drain the alcohol out of your body, you know. But one thing about drinking is that you never stop. You just keep on, you know, saping and saping. You know? But then the kidneys are realized that, hey man, if this guy doesn't stop drinking, we're going to pack up here. So it sends the message to the brain, says, hey, make him sleep. And then the next thing you see a man go, you know, and they pass out. And the kidney says, woo, thank you. And they continue to drink, you know, the alcohol out of the system. And that is why at the end of the day, when that person is so drunk that he can't even get the message that the bladder is full, they end up messing themselves, you know. But it just goes to show how the body, you know, and how all these things are controlled. For instance, live with an amputated arm or an amputated leg. They can even do heart transplants and kidney transplant and all these things. But have you ever heard of a head transplant? There is no head transplant. So which actually says us, we got to realize as men that we are irreplaceable. But the most important thing that we have to do is be responsible.
I love that.
To see to it that the society becomes a better place for all of us.
Sello, that is so profound, and that I hope men are listening, and even with this still being available on the platform, that men will take this away, because I feel as men, we've got a greater responsibility in paving a different way and a different society for us. I'm going to ask you one last question in terms of wrap up. This is just getting back to the arts and getting it back to being a performer, a thespian, all in all. The younger generation now wants to step into theater. They want to step into the screen. And you've probably experienced a lot of people messaging you and emailing you, Sello, how do I do this? Have we a greater responsibility as actors and thespians with the people that say, I want to step into it because I want to be on the red carpet, I want to win the award, forgetting the hard work that it really takes to be a creative all in all? Okay, let's just quickly get him back on there. You guys, I hope you guys are still enjoying this live. Sello quickly disappeared there. Let's just quickly get him back. I hope we can save that live. The part of technology. Thank you so much to everybody that's also live with us. Let's just quickly get Sello back on our live. Yeah. This was quite interesting. I'm learning a lot. I'm also making notes, and I hope you are making notes as well. This is so much fun. Okay, let's quickly see if we can get Sello back online. Are you guys enjoying this? Please give me thumbs up. Let me know how you're experiencing this. It's really all about how we can emancipate ourselves. And like Sello said, we are definitely a global village now. I think now more than ever, even with South Africa, it's important that we get to share and really just nurture these relationships and make sure that we are able to learn from one another.
Hi there.
Yes. Okay. So just that last question, Sello, sorry there, I don't know what happened.
Yes. No, I think my battery, my phone battery died.
Okay. Apologies for that.
You can a question again.
There's a greater generation that want to step into, what we do. And they see the glitz, they see the glamour, they see the red carpets, they see the dressing wall, and they see the awards. And as an actor, I've always said that the greatest joy for me being in theater is seeing and experiencing the rehearsal process, because when you perform, it's like 2-3 days of performance and done. That's it. Production is done. And then a year later, perhaps you get nominated. Or what is it like for you, and what lesson can we perhaps teach the younger generation that this requires work? The action from what you've broken down, it requires action. It requires creativity, technique, observation, and the reaction that we want. But it takes hard work. The rewards might not come in a year's time. It might not come in 10 years' time. It might only come 40 years later.
In fact, the rewards is actually, the awards are basically just, something, it's just basically like being given notice. And also the glitz and glamour, if you are you're doing this because you are seeking fame, I think you're going to lose direction, and sometimes people wonder why others you know, one's others' careers are most sustained than others. And those who come in because they are there for fame, I think they even lose the interest. But if you are somebody who's concerned about representing the human condition, you know, and representing it in all its spheres, you know, I mean, there was a time when I would say that I will never play a gardener, you know, but for now, it depends what the story is about. Right. You know, because you have people who have been gardeners, you know, and who have been bus boys, but who have amazing stories of their lives. Right. You know, and if somebody has, you know, captured a story of a gardener, you know, or even of a taxi driver or whatever, you know, that is a role that we play. Because my duty is to represent the human condition, you know, and I just hope that, you know, young people out there, you know, just realize that do it because you love it. The other, the fame and whatever, and the glitz and glamour, you know, you are going to bend, but they will come. They come with the territory. You see what I would also I would commend you for is the fact of you starting in the theater. Now, there are also these other things that you find people saying there is theater acting and camera acting. Yeah. I dispute it. I think there are only two types of acting. And it is, one is bad acting and good acting. And bad acting is just good acting. It is not that it is theater acting, you know. Yeah. And these two mediums deal with space. With the camera, like we are, you know, it depends on the frame. You are playing within the frame. Yeah, with the frame. You know what I mean? Either, you know, VCU, or, you know, an MCU or a wide shot, all that, you know. Right. And then with theater, you are dealing with the space of the theater, you know. Right. And the thing is, when you want to see, I mean, learn the best performances, look at an ordinary person who steps on stage and is basically addressing the audience. Right. Will be received and understood, all their emotions and everything, without them trying to over emote, you know, and over just you know, gesticulate, you know. So the thing is, you got to understand what space you are playing in, and the space in the theater, and hence you even, I mean, you call them an audience, not viewers. So which means all they are coming there to do, first and foremost, is to hear the story. So it's all about how you project so that they hear you, and how you now maybe just, because you are aware that you are playing in a bigger space, and slightly magnify or amplify whatever you do. Because of the space. Yes, but also just amplify your emotions and whatever you do just naturally, you know. And other people go to extents that, you know, what? Do you see what I'm saying? No, mama. That is just bad. You know? And like I say, you know, by observing people, you will realize, I mean, for instance, at a funeral, you know, the funeral would be cool, you know, and maybe in a hall or in church. And especially, let's say, in spaces where there's not even a sound system. But that person who's going to be talking about the deceased, they will be so aware that they are speaking in church, and make themselves fill the space, unlike how an actor would do it. Absolutely. You know, and for me, it's just that. So, and theater is the best place where you even learn to develop your technique. Because when you are in theater, for instance, when you are doing a play and it runs for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you have the opportunity to make sure that you give the same performance that you gave last night, or even grow on it in your understanding.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's how you develop a technique, and that is how you will also maybe find ways on how to repeat performance, even when you are on, you know, shooting in front of a camera.
Yeah. Mr. Sello, it felt like I was in a masterclass for an entire hour. Thank you so much for your time. In Namibia sê ons baie dankie, ek waardeer dit.
Baie dankie, Adriano, and all the best with your, you know, with your career. And I hope, you know, one day we'll cross paths, you know, and yeah, and I've got a friend there. She used to be I think the PA of I think the artistic director of the National Theatre, Desiree.
Desiree Mento.
Desiree Mento, that's my friend.
Yeah.
You know, and I hope she's watching. Hello, Des. You know, and then, gosh, how can I forget? He's going to be angry with me. You know, the guy who was running the theater, the name doesn't come now. It's old age, man. These gray hairs, you know, it's the burnout of the brain cells as well.
Yeah, that's probably David Javera.
No, it was not David. It was not David. He was a dark-skinned person. I think maybe David came after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before I go, just last one. Am I holding the cup right? Am I?
Man, spot on. Spot on.
This is my mom. So.
And you know, I mean, you know, if there's anything, especially, I mean, when we're still talking about the whole gender-based violence thing, but also with the foundation, one of the things that I'm doing with the foundation is I've got an incubation where I'm training young actors, you know, in the performing arts. And then also, as far as gender-based violence is concerned, I'm planning and hope that I get, you know, sponsorship for it, but take a whole trip around the country and basically just spreading the message of men, you know, men changing into being better men and getting rid of toxic masculinity. And wherever we go, we're going to be, you know, asking survivors of gender-based violence. And we would want to have ambassadors. The foundation would like to have ambassadors in all the provinces. And if we get an opportunity, and also actually, I once came to the University of Namibia at an event where they were dealing with gender-based violence. It was, I think, in the year where I think a young woman was actually stabbed to death, you know. Yes. So, I mean, you know, even, you know, if ever we get an opportunity to come to Namibia, the foundation coming to Namibia to share the message, that will be a great thing. But thank you very much, man. We will keep conversing, and I hope we have made a connection.
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Sello. And I'll once again thank you to Pearl as well. Tell Pearl I'll definitely get in touch with her, because I'd love to really get involved with the Sello Maake kaNcube Foundation. And like you say, you know, we're on the forefront of making change. But I want to read this quote again by John Ledwaba. An actor is an instrument for mind liberation. If there's anything that whoever has taken from this life, that we're all actors, we act every day. And it's our obligation to liberate the minds of those that we interact with.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Adriano.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There you go. That is Mr. Sello Maake kaNcube, who joined us on our live. I'm really excited. So make sure next week, Sunday, we also get to talk to someone else. But for now, get to share this video, get to interact, get in touch with his foundation, get to follow him on all the social media platforms, and make sure that you can also become part of what we are doing and what we're sharing right here. From my side, Adriano, share some love, get to share this. Live with Adriano is all about making sure that those in the acting vicinity, definitely we get to shed a light on you. We get to talk about your journey and definitely making it big. So if you're a makeup artist, if you're the gaffer on set, if you're an actor, if you're a DOP, if you're a script writer, this is the platform we get to talk about how we can emancipate you. And yeah, also shout out to me for building this little mini set.
at my house. So yeah, we're gonna do big and we're gonna do better. Thank you so much to Martha Mukaiva, Gelia Dhamma, who also tuned in, and everybody who took the time and opportunity to tune in. I'm a little bit emotional because this is a dream come true for me. Like I said, he's been one of those actors I've always looked up to, and today I got to speak with him. So yeah, let me quickly go.